This Gov Today program is sponsored by Maximus. On this edition of Gov Today with Francis Rose, the new Digital First Decree from OMB is a revenue roadmap for contractors. The Chief Information Officer of the United States explains the federal government's generational dilemma in customer experience and a 6-step strategy for delivering tech to warfighters. Air Force CIO Venus Goodwine is here. Welcome to Gov Today with Francis Rose. Federal agencies have a roadmap now for delivering digital-first experiences to the customers they serve. The guidance the Office of Management and Budget calls delivering a digital-first public experience can be a roadmap for the vendor community, too, according to Clare Martorana. She's the Chief Information Officer of the United States. Claire, welcome. It's great to see you again. In our conversation at Hershey at ELC's, at ACT-IAC's ELC 2023, you said this is a 10-year roadmap for contractors. What do you mean by that, Claire?
What I meant by that was this is an opportunity for our contracting partners to continue to work together with the government. So number one, our contracting partners, as well as all of our agency leadership and tech teams, need to read the DX guidance. That's the best place to start. From that, you'll actually see that we have been very deliberate in the way that we've articulated digital experience for the public. And what that means is we are not going to be buying microsites and building things that are outside the primary domain of the agency. And that way we can create a simple, seamless, and secure experience for the public.
What I didn't see spelled out explicitly, but what I took away from your remarks in Hershey and what I read in the document is you want this to be as replicable as possible, too. You don't want people going off in a bunch of different directions and creating things from scratch.
You hit on the primary point. The U.S. Web Design System is an open source repository that will provide us the framework for consistent interaction digitally across every single government agency. So it's the law. It's already been the law. We've just put out guidance that really helps accelerate and build on the momentum that has been created through the Customer Experience Executive Order and other things that the Biden-Harris administration has accomplished. So the U.S. Web Design System is open source, which means that our contracting partners can contribute to the repository in GitHub. They're able to actually add interaction designs that they might have to design for a specific use case at a specific agency, can benefit everyone. So it's bringing our partners on the journey with us to improve service delivery for the public.
You used a couple of words there, too, that I also took away from reading this and from talking to you, and the one is partnership. You don't want this, it doesn't look like, at least, you want this to be just a relationship where vendors sell the government stuff. You want there to be more back and forth, more interaction, and more collaboration. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Our private sector vendor partners are essential. They are using modern technology. They are exposed to broad spectrums of service and mission delivery. So if you're working at one agency, likely we're solving similar problems at other agencies. So it gives you a really unique operating environment, as well as the opportunity to generate revenue from work that you've already completed. People have heard me say often that only 2% of our forms in government are fully digital. If you solve that problem at one agency, you have a very large opportunity across the ecosystem to actually repeat that work using the same quality and transparency in the work that you're accomplishing.
That's a philosophical shift in and of itself, though, because when I came into this space 15, 20 years ago, it was really hard to get anybody at any level, especially at the OMB level, to acknowledge that something somebody was doing at one agency was very, very similar to what somebody at another agency is also doing. What's that look like at the agency level? Is it your sense that agencies are catching on or have bought into the idea that what they do is not that different at some other agency?
Absolutely. I'm part of a really robust CIO community, and every CIO council meeting, ad hoc meetings that we get together, those are the conversations we're having as CIOs. We're talking about successes, failures, opportunities, transformative and innovative technology like AI that is impacting our ecosystems, impacting our workforce, wanting to make sure that we're able to deliver the best technology and experience to the public, and being effective in using taxpayer dollars, because we never forget that we have to really focus on the fact that taxpayers are footing the bill for all of this, and we're not meeting their expectations. So by working together across the ecosystem, it allows us to take one investment and actually scale it.
Something you've talked about many times when it comes to underpinning all of these efforts is the workforce that's necessary to do it, both on the contractor side and on the federal government side.
Yeah.
What does that look like right now,
Yeah,
Clare?
we need federal employees who are capable of administering, writing great task orders, doing the sometimes burdensome work of acquisition and procurement. They're challenging. It takes a long time. But we need those teams in partnership together at an agency to solve a problem. So having a technology team that is working like a normal sprint team, which means we have all of the disciplines on the same team trying to solve the problem together. So it is not waterfall in that we give requirements to the acquisition team, they put out an RFI, we come back a couple months later, pick up the RFI, the market research that's been done. Right? We don't work that way anymore. We work in a much more agile, collaborative manner, and it's really driving significant impact at agencies.
What does that mean for the kind of people that you want to bring into the government side, let alone the kind of folks that you expect to work with from the people that you contract to?
First of all, we have an incredibly talented workforce in place. We need to continue to train. We need to continue to upskill the workforce that we currently have. That's job number one. Job number two is making sure we're attracting the right people to government. Having people that either move from agency to get different experience but stay within the government family, and also bringing private sector talent into government to be able to bring those wonderful skills and agility into the ecosystem is really essential. So we are working hard with early career, mid-career, later career through all of the programs that are available. If you go on CIO.gov and search join, it's right at the top of the page. We just built out a really simple list. If you're a private sector person who's contemplating joining government but don't know what the entry path is in, that gives you a high level overview, and then you can click through to the appropriate place, whether it's the U.S. Digital Service, the U.S. Digital Corps, the Presidential Innovation Fellows Program, or individual agencies through USA Jobs. There's a path in, and we need you to come serve.
This digital first guidance is really clear. There are 5 points. We'll put a link to it at fedgovtoday.com and today's show page so people can see it for themselves. How will you judge the agencies on their implementation, on their execution, to make sure that they're on track and stay on track throughout the course of this?
Yeah, we have done something, evolved a lot of great work that has gone on from my predecessors in using human-centered policy development. We also are using private sector tactics of measurement for impact. So we are not just putting out guidance, we're actually doing our oversight job to make sure that we are holding agencies accountable. We're working collaboratively with our budget colleagues at OMB to make sure that we are lining up so that our funding goes from year to year, can transition administrations should that happen, which happens every few years. And that is a really essential part of Congress expects us, the President expects us to manage our IT ecosystem in a way that is sustainable, that it is not something we're focusing on in this 2-year, 4-year, 6-year period and then abandoning it, that it is absolutely essential that we're able to build that over the course of time.
We have about a minute left, Clare. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but all of these opportunities sound exactly like good situations for agencies that want to make applications to the Technology Modernization Fund.
Absolutely. And we are busy at the Technology Modernization Fund doing a couple different things, continuing to optimize the way that we are working with agencies to make it easier. There's a very simple expression of interest form that we've tried to reduce the burden and reduce the bureaucracy. We're also working really hard on the requirements in the AI executive order and the M memo that will be coming out in order to make sure that TMF can meet the moment and that we can meet our agency partners using TMF funding to fund AI projects across the federal government.
Clare Martorana, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks so much.
You can find a link to that Digital First Customer Experience guidance on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the federal government's generational dilemma in customer experience. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment. Mark your calendar for December 14th. AFCEA DC invites you to the 47th Annual Winter Gala at the National Building Museum. Join leaders from defense, federal IT, and industry for an unforgettable evening of elegance and goodwill. Last year, AFCEA DC raised more than $190,000 for scholarships and collected thousands of toys. And they want to top that this year. Reserve your tickets now. Visit dc.afceachapters.org for details or go to fedgovtoday.com/events. Welcome back. Surveys say the digital-first public experience Clare Martorana talked about is what most people are looking for when they interact with government. But agency customer experience efforts may have a generational dilemma. Joe Jeter is Senior Vice President for Federal Technology at Maximus. Joe, welcome. Thanks for joining me. You wrote recently, agencies are working, quote, across 5 generations and vastly different technology preferences and access. What are the issues that presents for agencies, and how are you seeing them address those issues successfully?
There's so many agencies, there's so many issues because agencies have to span so many generations, and the issues that they're finding are a number. One is that there's so many young people coming into the force. They're digital first. Okay, they're ready to go. They want to connect with the government digitally. Okay, they don't have a desire to talk. And then you have people that are seniors that are not digital or haven't been digital, and they're used to picking up the phone and having a call. Okay, so the various agencies now have to accommodate multiple infrastructures and support those multiple infrastructures to deal with this wide, vast array of people who want to interface with the government. But we do know that more and more people want to connect with the government digitally, but you can't leave anyone behind. So how that's done basically is starting once again with human-centered design. When you start from human-centered design, you're thinking about the outcomes. And when you think about the outcomes, you're starting to say, okay, how do I have the best experience on the phone? How do I have the best experience digitally? How do I have the best experience that's a hybrid? And when you think from that perspective, you're not thinking about what kinds of tech. You're thinking about what kinds of outcomes. And that's where I really like to focus, is to make sure we understand the journey that clients are on. We want to understand that experience from a journey perspective, and then you're saying, okay, what's the impact and outcome, and how do I measure that outcome? So if I understand the impact and outcome, I understand how to measure that outcome, I know how to build the tech associated with it.
And then it sounds like that gives an agency the opportunity, in collaboration with somebody like you, to say, okay, now that I know what I want to see at the end, I know I can have an idea then of what the pieces are that I need to put together to reach that outcome. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. And more and more, in fact, more recently, what I keep trying to think is to get excellent customer service is what every agency wants. They don't want an angry phone call. They don't want an upset citizen. They want to create an excellent customer service experience. So the goal is to really define what that experience is. And now we have new tools and new ways of doing it. Because of AI, we have technology that helps us more and more use the data to customize around an experience. Once again, to span those various generations, the data can inform me, how do I customize that experience, and how do I shape around the experience? So thinking of the customer first, thinking of the data that we see and how we can make that connection. We have AI now to help us make those tools and make those connections.
You've mentioned AI a couple of times. What do you see AI's role being in facilitating customer experience, particularly in a government setting?
Well, what I see AI doing to facilitate customer experiences is just like when I think about medicine now. There was a time that there was a one-size-fit-all medicine. Okay, we thought there was at the time there's a one-size-fit-all contact center. Okay, well now we know that if we understand through the data the personas of the people that we're connecting with, okay, we now know how to customize the scripts. We know how to make sure that where something was paper-based, we can make it digital. We know how to address people in a way that drives the customer experience to the positive. So all those things are enabled by an AI set of tools. We also know how to handle the variety that we have in a workforce now. We have a lot of remote workers, et cetera, things like that. We understand through AI how to make those leverages and to make the work easy. We talk a lot about something called total experience more and more, which is customer experience, employee experience, and the AI helps us bring that together into a holistic way.
We have less than a minute left, Joe. What are some of the other tools that you see? You wrote about cloud, you wrote about as-a-service models and others as important components of this too, it sounds like.
Yes. So the underlying infrastructure to enable AI, to enable the work that we're talking about, to create the personas and to create the customization around the customer is enabled by cloud. It's enabled by cybersecurity, good cybersecurity tools and foundations. So more and more, we're handling disparate sets of data that we're bringing into a cloud and then using the AI tools and various tools and applications so that we can present a more efficient way to users, to a variety of users. So what you're going to find more and more, the cloud and the various tools associated with the cloud, but also cybersecurity, so that we're able to make sure we make the right identity, the right associations for the data, for the protection of our citizens as well. And because of that base, we're now able to leverage that into the modern tools, the AI tools, and also the right kind of messages, whether it's to a contact center or whether it's to a digital experience.
Joe Jeter, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Great to talk to you as well. Thank you.
You can read more about customer experience in the federal government on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, a 6-step strategy for delivering tech to warfighters. Air Force CIO Venus Goodwine's here when FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment. Mark your calendar for December 14th. AFCEA DC invites you to the 47th Annual Winter Gala at the National Building Museum. Join leaders from defense, federal IT, and industry for an unforgettable evening of elegance and goodwill. Last year, AFCEA DC raised more than $190,000 for scholarships and collected thousands of toys. And they want to top that this year. Reserve your tickets now. Visit dc.afceachapters.org for details or go to fedgovtoday.com/events. Welcome back. The new Chief Information Officer at the Air Force will stress 6 lines of effort to provide technology to airmen and guardians. Her priority list includes a user experience focus that underlies all 6 lines of effort. Venus Goodwine is the Chief Information Officer at the Air Force. Venus, welcome. It's great to have you on the program. How did you set these 6 as the lines of effort that you want to emphasize in your tenure?
Thank you for having me here today. Well, first of all, I always say whatever your boss is interested in, it fascinates you. And so a couple months ago, Secretary Kendall started a major initiative, the Great Power Competition, and he challenged us to understand, are we ready, organized, trained, and equipped for a Great Power Competition? And so when you think of that and you think about the capabilities that a CIO must provide to the warfighter, these 6 lines of effort fit nicely and nest right within what we need to do in order to enable our warfighters. And so we'll talk about, how do you get great power? How do you achieve great power competition? It's through decision advantage. How do you achieve decision advantage? One, it's about data and AI. Data will come everywhere from, of course, our air and space assets. But also, when you think about artificial intelligence, how do I use that to make sense of that data? But the rest of the LOEs within our strategy are tied to, one, investments. Not because I need new money, but am I getting the best out of the investments I've already made to deliver the capabilities to the warfighter? The other portion of our cybersecurity strategy is tied to cybersecurity. Our adversary has showed that they have the will and the appetite to attack our critical infrastructure. So how do I ensure that we have secured not only our data, but everything that goes end to end in enabling our warfighter? But lastly, you cannot do any of that without our workforce. And so, as you know, Honorable Sherman, the DoD CIO, did issue a cybersecurity strategy and the ensuing implementation plan. So leveraging that, we developed a strategy within the Department of the Air Force, a framework. How are we going to recruit the Air Force that we need, the workforce that we need for the Air Force, or even our airmen and our guardians and our civilians? How do we use that framework? So when you think about those 6 LOEs, everything, you know, from our data, our AI, our cybersecurity, our investments, but I don't want to forget the cloud, because the other thing about data advantage, decision advantage, is ensuring that the data is available, that the data is trustworthy. And you do that by making sure that I could put data at the tactical edge. And the cloud capability allows me to do that. So using our JWCC contract that was just issued by DoD CIO, we also get to maximize our benefit through volume buying. So I think those 6 LOEs will help me get after the priorities of the Secretary.
There's a complication that you're dealing with in the Air Force, and that is all of the things that you're talking about there require you to interact with the other services too as part of the joint force. The cybersecurity element you touched on, that's LOE 2. LOE 1 is accelerating cloud adoption. You hit on that. The workforce piece is the one I want to explore with you first, line of effort number 3. What do you have and what do you need most, and where do you need them? Uniform, civilian, contractor workforce. What does that look like right now?
So it starts with, 1, the work. What is the work we need to do in order to have the decision advantage in a great power competition? So once you identify the work, you identify the skills required to do the work, and then you do an assessment of your workforce to identify gaps. We are using the Defense Cybersecurity Workforce Framework, which was issued by Honorable Sherman, to identify, and I will use the word, we code them with 3-digit work roles. And within those work roles, now that everyone's coded, we can understand where are our work roles of critical needs, where are those gaps in our workforce, and I will tell you data scientist is one of those. And so now using that data, it allows me to then use all the authorities I have at my disposal to recruit and retain the force that I need. You know, rather it's direct hiring authority so that I can, you know, reduce the time to hire, or rather it's using and implementing the cyber accepted service so that I could eliminate the pay disparity. So all of those tools in line with the DCWF, our workforce framework, allows me to know the skills that I need, the skills that I have, and any gaps, I know how to address that.
LOE 5 is one, or 4, excuse me, is one that we haven't really touched on. That's IT portfolio management. What does that look like inside the Air Force, Venus?
The Air Force today, and I should say the Department of the Air Force, because we are proud that we are one department and 2 services. We are making investments to ensure that we have a digital force. I heard on your previous segment, we have 5 generations in the workforce today. Absolutely. So how do we make sure that we're not using old, antiquated systems that our new recruits think are too old for them to work on, and they don't see us as the great power that we are based on our IT. So using our investment dollars, we have made investment decisions in ensuring that we are a digital workforce and that we are a digital service. And we do that through things like making sure that the investments I make in cloud, or the investments I make in my people, or the investments I make in capabilities. Not so much tools. We're a tools-rich environment. We're worried about the capabilities that I need in order to enable the warfighter. So again, our investment portfolio is not about new dollars. It is about maximize the dollars that we already have. So
to the end, to the point that you just made about the customer experience, the employee experience, Cole Whittall, the now former customer experience officer at the Air Force, was on the show back in the summer, August, I think. What are you doing to continue the effort that he started there in a kind of a post-fix our computers environment to make sure that not only are you giving people what they need, but they understand that you're giving them what they need?
Absolutely. Colt Whittall set us up great. He laid the foundation that we can actually continue his work. So now we're partnering with the other MILDEPs. You mentioned the other services, the other military CIOs, and with DoD CIO to expand the user experience. And it's things like the investment that I'm making in the type of devices that we use. You know, that we use more of a virtual environment as opposed to giving, you know, laptops to our individuals. We are making sure from a bring your own device, you know, using those types of capabilities. So now that our airmen and guardians can have access access to their data from anywhere and from their own device. So it's those types of things where we're listening and we're hearing from our workforce and from our Air Force and our Airmen and Guardians, that we're hearing from them, and we're actually making changes based on what we're hearing. And that's through pulse surveys that we've started under COAT. We continue that as well. And lastly, we're operationalize our user experience from a cybersecurity standpoint as well. And so Zero Trust is going to help us do that faster and better.
How are you measuring success in all of these lines of effort? How are you overseeing them to make sure that they're staying on track, Venus?
One, I have an awesome team. I have an awesome team of senior leaders, senior cyber professionals on my staff that help. But more than that, what gets measured gets done. And so I have a strategy team that we've established the objectives, and then we've established the plan of action and milestones on how we're going to get after those objectives. And then I report it to the boss.
We have about a minute left. I imagine to some degree this is personal to you. Not a lot of folks know that you're a retired airman yourself. So I wonder how that informs the way that you go about doing this work.
Absolutely, because basically I know what the warfighters need because I was one. And so I put myself in those shoes. I think about the things that I wish I had when I was in uniform. And I always tell the team that I am now they. When I was down at the squadron level and I couldn't understand what are they thinking at headquarters, I recognize that I am they, and I use that to fuel the decisions that I make. And then lastly, I partner. I partner with my MAJ comms, with my field comms, and of course with my counterparts to ensure that I'm not making decisions in a silo. And so all of that combined together today has made my job and my transition very easy.
And final thought with about a minute left. You mentioned CIO Sherman a number of times. What's the interaction like with his office and with the other offices of the service CIOs?
Absolutely. I will tell you, we couldn't ask for a better leader in the DoD CIO, but really he ensures the synergy. While, it's different for the Navy, it's different for land, it's different for air and space. However, the commonalities that we have, he ensures that we make decisions along that path. And so it's not a competition. He ensures that we collaborate one with another to solve the hard problems, because at the end of the day, it's about the warfighter, and that's our focus.
Venus Goodwine, it's great to talk to you again.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You can read more about those 6 lines of effort on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in just a moment. Mark your calendar for December 14th. AFCEA DC invites you to the 47th Annual Winter Gala at the National Building Museum. Join leaders from defense, federal IT, and industry for an unforgettable evening of elegance and goodwill. Last year, AFCEA DC raised more than $190,000 for scholarships and collected thousands of toys, and they want to top that this year. Reserve your tickets now. Visit dc.afceachapters.org for details, or go to fedgovtoday.com/events. Welcome back. In today's event spotlight, AFCEA DC's 47th Annual Winter Gala is coming December 14th at the National Building Museum. It'll have a Swan Lake theme this year. Proceeds benefit AFCEA DC scholarship and STEM programs. Senior level civilian and uniformed DoD leaders, federal IT decision makers, and GovTech industry executives will be there. If you want to be there too, you can find a link to read more and buy tickets at fedgovtoday.com/events. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10:30 with the Chief Human Capital Officer at the Commerce Department, Jessica Palatka. I'm Francis Rose. See you next Sunday. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.